Today's open-ended. So we got a nice bunch of people on online today. We're thrilled to have you. We made this somewhat open-ended. We put out a submission for questions earlier. We've done the meet the team thing. I think most of you know who we are and the kind of points of view that we represent. So there's one question that was in the queue that I think Krista submitted. I think it's on the next slide.
Nope.
Let's start with this question submitted, and Derek, I think this is the first time you're seeing it, which is great. We love to play Stump the Geek here on Ask Sympraxis.
I peaked. I peaked, in all fairness. So the question is there an existing resource that shows exactly what parts of a SharePoint site use which theme slots? So the short answer to that is there isn't a out of the box in the theme designer way to say this color goes with this widget, this color goes with this, the sweet bar uses this, this, and this. There are a few resources out there or a few folks that have done some research on this. One is, and I can never say her name, Laura
Corcoran.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Try that.
She
Good enough.
Corcoran. Wow, I'm bad today. So Laura Kokorian, she went through and she wrote a whole series of blog posts about site designs and visual design and creating themes. And she actually deconstructed different pages, different elements of the page, and figured out which theme slots that they used. I will post a link to that right now. The other thing that, if you're interested, a friend and sort of Sympraxian by connection, Stefan Bauer, he created a web part called Panathema, and that helps you identify which colors are identified with each theme slot. Krista, was there a specific thing that you're trying to change the color of?
Well, yeah, I just kind of wanted to get some insight into what value is used on my nav menus primarily. Because of the brand requirements within my company, we had to go with a particular gray as our primary theme color. So I have that, and then I used, I think it was 333333 for my text color. And it seems to be, I don't know which value from within the theme design is being pulled for my navigation menu links, the actual text themselves, or text itself, I should say, and which value is used in the background, because I'm getting accessibility issues with some of the sub values essentially. So I wanted to know which ones, because there's light, strong, there's tertiary, lighter, alt. I don't know which one goes where in terms of the backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, so. Let me look real quick at the Laura. Laura went through and pulled it all out.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you'd stop. I think the other problem is that every one of those slots gets used in multiple places, and Laura may or may not have found them all. So you have to be pretty careful when you change things that you sort of do and there's no other way to figure it out other than just traveling around a lot in the site to see if you've screwed anything else up.
Yeah, that was coming next.
And our plan is we try not to change the additional values like the neutral secondary and stuff. I don't want to get into doing that because of the way that it is used in so many different ways. So
yeah, and I want to jump in. So from the PowerShell side, because I know in the chat room you've all been clamoring to hear me bring up PowerShell.
Oh man,
God, yeah.
He just couldn't stop him.
That's that. Oh,
you can't go 5 minutes without PowerShell.
So I know from the PowerShell standpoint, for some other customer things, I've had to try to figure out what themes were used in different places and what parts of themes, and that's just not exposed very well. I think the answer to that, like we had a customer come to us and say, we want to see, we've got 2 or 3 different themes that our company uses, and we want to look and see, and if a site's not using either of those themes, we want to set a theme. there was no way for me to automate walking through and seeing which themes were used where. So I know that as you're trying to fight some of this, some of it's just, that's just not, you can't find it because it's not there. It's just not exposed very well right now.
Yeah, but to your very specific question about like which one governs nav, which theme slot governs nav text, and which one governs nav background. Unfortunately, I don't know that off the top of my head. I can do a little research and look and see if I can grab it, but I would definitely not use what comes out of the theme designer. I would not go down the road of like trying to edit what the individual theme slots, because I think you'll end up inadvertently creating worse accessibility issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our fear. And like I said, we don't want to get into that level of customization because then it's trying to keep track of everything that we have changed.
Yep.
So if it means changing our other value or one of our primary values to ensure that we have accessibility for all of these sub values, I'm much more keen on that plan than going into changing what neutral secondary is and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's when we work with clients that have a color palette where the primary color and the secondary color don't pass the accessibility requirement. We usually end up changing one or both.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, guys. I'll take a look at those resources and
Cool.
Do some more research. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
So Lou,
Julie,
so Lou
you I
has a
think
question, and
probably
I think this is maybe for Todd, right? I had a client
Maybe.
ask about find which Office 365 groups are actually using Planner. So it's either Todd or me. I'm doing this. This is hard.
Yeah.
This is really hard. There's I'd have to go look up the exact code. Like I might actually have the code open, but there is a value that I've been harvesting that I call inception out of the group that has a value of like Outlook / Planner. And at one point it was /stream, but I think it's now just Outlook / Planner. And so you can kind of tell by that, which means that the group came because it started in either Outlook or Planner, but you can't tell which. And then what I'm doing to sort of figure out whether it's Planner or not is some really hacky, unfortunate code, because there is no app level permissions for Planner APIs. So I have like an administrative account that I go and add as a member of the group, and then I check to see if there's any plans for the group. And if there is, then I'm going to assume that it was actually Planner that inceptioned the group. Otherwise, I'm going to assume it was Outlook. So that's kind of how we're doing it. While other questions are being answered, I'll go look up the field that I'm getting that from, but I don't know it right off the top of my head. But there is a field in the graph that I'm getting that data from.
Yeah, and so Lou, my story of this has nearly as much woe as Julie's. So I had a customer come up with a similar thing. Can we tell which groups are using Planner? And I was hoping it would be a deal like it would be and again, this is all with PowerShell, using get Microsoft 365 group, and then there would be a Boolean value that says Todd, this uses Planner, and it would be 0 or 1, and I would look for that. Was not quite that simple because you can have more than one plan per group, so that it isn't just an on or an off. So basically that's a property of the plan that it's got a group ID or something. So I was able to kind of get it, but not to the satisfaction that the customer wanted. So and once I started unraveling it and told them how much it was going to take and all that, they're like, we don't care that much. But for me, so depending on what Julie comes up with for the graph, the graph SDK, which is the graph PowerShell module, is horrible in most every sense of the word. But they do have a whole bunch of commandlets based on Planner. And so depending on what your weapon of choice is, once you figure out how to get in, there is the PNP's got a couple of things for it. And then the graph SDK also has some stuff. Maybe the Graph Explorer will get you better.
Yeah, the problem is that to get the data out of it, you have to be, the account you're using has to be a member of the group. So you kind of, yeah, that's sort of what I meant by the there's no app level permissions. So if the account, no, even if it's a global admin, it doesn't matter. They can't see whether or not there's actually a plan for that group.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad because even on their article page, they say they don't provide any reports on Planner at this time. So that seemed to indicate that trying to pull that information is going to be difficult from us, whether we're using Graph or PowerShell.
Yeah. Well, and you may end up having to do so. Like Julie mentioned, where you have a group or a user that has site collection admin to everything in your tenant, and you've got a flow or something that runs every night that make sure that they're in there, and they just have to use that account. It's a horrible thing, but sometimes you have to.
I found the code. So this, I'm going to paste the RESTful call. Oh, well, that's not going to work because it's not going to paste. All right. Well, I will paste it in a second. But at any rate, there is the groups have a property called creation options, and that creation options then has a value of Outlook/Stream or Planner/unknown. So it's the Planner/unknown version. That's the switch they made. It was Outlook/Planner, and now it's Outlook/Stream, and it's Planner/unknown. So actually, if it was Planner/unknown, it would probably be pretty safe to say it's probably just Planner. But I will give you the endpoint in the graph for that in a second.
But he's looking for which groups are using Planner, not which ones
created
Planner.
It's about using for sure. And that's where, everybody gets Planner, but who's actually using it? And it sounds like
okay, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Hurdles. Yeah.
Well, even still,
to find out if they created any.
Okay, but you're still in the same boat because so you can, if you have the group and you just want to see if there's a plan for that group, so the steps are still the same. You have to first add the user as a member of the group, and then you can ask for the plans for the group, and then you'll know.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Do we want to do the next question that showed up that Caleb asked?
Sure.
So Caleb asked in the chat room, Todd, you're my hero. He didn't have to add that. That was too kind. When you were looking for a way to force themes on sites, were you successful coming up a PowerShell way to do that? Any pointers on finding a sample for that? So yeah, I think I was. So a couple of things to keep in mind with dealing with this is we've generically used the phrase site. Themes are specifically setting for the web. We kind of don't think about webs anymore, but theming is a web thing, not a site thing. So as you're, doing the PowerShell dance where you're trying to figure out how to set things, and you're like, get command site. Why doesn't this set site have a theme option? It's because it's a property of the web. So look for web stuff. And so yes, once I got the right context with the web, there's a way to do it. The other thing is there's kind of two buckets of things called themes in Office 365. So depending, and it's been a year or so since I worked on this, but there was one group of those themes that I could set and another group that I couldn't. And when I would do the whole get theme piece to check it, it would come back empty, which was kind of the problem that I had. But yeah, I think there is. And if that's something you want to do, Caleb, hit me up. Twitter, email, whatever, and I can at least get you as far as I got and help you chase that down. And this was all with the PNP. That's so if you don't already have that, fire that up. And so one of the things that I do, you can do get command, look for things that start with that contain theme. So maybe there's a command because when I'm trying to figure this stuff out, like I never know if there's a set PNP web that has a themes property parameter, or if there's a set web theme commandlet that does all the things. So get command -name theme. You can also search for commands by parameter. So you can say get command with the parameter has the word theme in it, and that'll give you all the parameters. So a couple of ways to skin that cat.
Cool. So anybody else with a question that wants to come off mute?
I think at the beginning we had the interesting things we've learned and questions submitted by you, and we'd prefer that this be about 97% questions submitted by you. But I
Right.
think we've all got some interesting things we've learned in our pockets as well.
Yep, we can move on to some things that we have kind of pre-prepared, but if there's questions, we'd way much rather do that. So barring that, let me move ahead.
I just thought of a question. Can I
Yeah, go.
put it out there?
Sure.
Do you know if there is any plans for Microsoft to allow site owners to download hub site usage data? Right now, you can download the site usage data, but the hub site stuff only seems to be available online on the site usage page, and it's not downloadable.
Interesting. Where are you going to see the hub usage?
On my hub site, main hub site, I'll go to the site usage page. And when I get there, I have multiple, or I have a toggle arrow essentially. Let me just crack it open here so I can make sure I'm saying the right things. It gives me the, by default, it displays the hub usage data analytics, and then it gives me, I'm just going to screenshot this and share it in the text. That's the drop-down menu option. So I get the hub usage data, I click that, and then I can choose between hub usage data or site usage data. And when hub usage data is highlighted, the only option is to look at the information. But when site usage data is chosen, then the download arrow shows up next to it. But
I
it doesn't.
see what you mean.
Yeah. This was just by accident because I had asked one of my staff members to download the hub usage data, and she said that she didn't see the arrow. So I thought perhaps it was a permissions issue, but I don't see the arrow either.
That one looks like something we need to ask Microsoft about. They may just not know that it's not there.
Okay.
I've just taken a screenshot of that on my own thing, and I will ask in our MVP channels and let you know if we find out anything in this chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Cool. Anyone else got anything? Derek, do you have a question?
Well, no, I was looking at Caleb's follow-up of whether whether they've deployed custom actions via PowerShell.
Derek, not necessarily PowerShell, but my use case is we love the footer, the SPFX sample for footers. Oh. It's site collection specific, right? Yep. We have a corporate or an enterprise standard for what a footer needs to be on our sites, and we want to deploy that to all our site collections. But everything I've seen is that it's something that is a custom action that's site collection specific. So if you're using CSOM it or PowerShell it, but walk the list, push that out.
No. Yeah. So the missing link here is so it's an application customizer, a SharePoint framework application customizer for the footer, but you need to set a property in your SharePoint framework solution so that it's tenant-wide deployed. So you set that to yes, and when you deploy the solution into your tenant app catalog, you check the box that you want it tenant-wide deployed. And then there's hidden, it's not in the menu, but you can turn it on if you look at the site contents in your tenant app catalog for the tenant-wide, tenant-wide deployed solutions. When you deploy it, it should show up in there, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's flaky as all heck. So if it doesn't show up in there, you manually add it in there, and then it automatically is added to the footer of every site collection in your tenant. The problem maybe with it is if you have some site collections where you don't want it, you don't have an option. It's all or nothing. If you want a optional deployment, then you would probably want to automate it in some way where you might have, go Derek.
That's where I was going, right?
So if you want to automate it, the best thing that I would suggest is to do it with a site design, because you can set that up. You can basically create a site design and it just adds that one component, and then you could run that via PowerShell. So if you had PowerShell or you had some kind of automation or something that was running an Azure function, you could kick off that site design and do it that way. And I have a sample of that right here. That was something that was incredibly challenging to figure out how to apply an app customizer. It's not super intuitive.
Okay, Todd, you're no longer my hero. It's Derek's turn.
Yeah.
What the?
That's well deserved,
Planted.
Todd. It was really time for you to be kicked off the
That
pedestal.
is
All right.
Just saying. Just saying.
Just thrown his.
I'm done for the day now. I'm going to go.
I am also done for the day.
Well,
Todd's out.
no
Okay.
great loss.
Well, Melissa's,
Oh yeah,
Well,
let's
Melissa's
pile on Todd
question?
today.
Oh, God.
do we have anything for Melissa's question? Do you have information about the new stream release?
So by new stream release, I think you're asking whether or not all it really is where they're going to store the stream videos.
Well, it's more than that, because the Stream Classic is a separate service. Stream 2.0 is really a distributed service, in that videos that are stored in libraries in SharePoint just get the viewer. In other
Right.
words, videos are going to be treated as content just like a Word document is. What, is there a specific question that you had, Melissa?
Yeah, so we have a lot of, not that many, but a number of videos on Stream Classic. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out or understand is when the new stream is fully operational, do we need to migrate those videos? Or can we keep them where they are?
Yeah, so they know that's a problem, they being Microsoft, and they have said that they will have some sort of migration mechanism. It's not clear exactly how that's going to work.
Okay.
I expect at some point, probably early, it'll probably be the sort of standard adopter curve. They'll probably offer some sort of PowerShell-y kind of way to do it. Todd's ears perk up, and then at some point toward the end of the hump, on the other tail, they'll probably force it for people who just haven't done anything. But in the middle, I think that there are going to be some ways to do it that are pretty painless. So it really depends on how much you've got in stream, how you want to think about moving forward. I mean, I would suggest that you experiment a little bit with where it is in your tenant. But I think right now, if you have a video in a document library, it'll play the way you would expect it to in stream. But it depends on which of the stream capabilities you rely on, whether that's good enough for you today.
Right. Yeah, we are hoping that when the new stream comes, it will have the transcript feature. But
I don't know if I know that when so Julie, you've tested this. I think when we do meetings like this, and things go into OneDrive, do they get the transcript now?
I don't think so. I actually haven't looked.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they do yet.
okay, well, this is helpful. Thank you.
And I would
It's
say
early, it's early
one thing-
days, I think.
Yeah. To add one thing to it, if you pray, please pray that the migration is better than it was from the video portal to stream.
They know better.
I hope so.
There is no stream API either. So to wrap this all up with the programming side of it, there is no stream API, and there won't be a stream API because basically all it's going to be in the future is a document in a library. So all the APIs you have for a document in a library is what you'll use. What I do wonder is if you're going to get sort of the graph extension of that to be able to trigger things like transcripts or some of those other features that you get with the Stream 2.0 thing. I have not heard that they will, but I do know there will not be a stream specific API, which I know this because I was trying to be able to reach into Stream to tell when last activity happened, and I can't do that because there is no API. So
So a question from Joy: how can I force a refresh on all modern pages, in her case, to fix an alignment bug?
I can explain this a little bit. So
Okay.
the issue happens when you have one page that has a vertical column and one page that doesn't have a vertical column, and then you try to navigate between them. The title alignment is off by exactly the amount of the vertical column. And so if you refresh the page, it's like it's only doing a partial refresh when you go from one page to the other. So the question is there a way to, until they fix this, if they ever do fix it. I realize that it's a weird thing to go from 2 different layouts like that, but that's not my call. I'm just trying to fix it. I'm not a developer. We tried a variety of things, but I'm hoping that somebody has an idea how to do this, because if you refresh the page, it fixes itself.
Yeah, I think the way you're describing it is a caching issue. I've noticed that they've started to cache, for instance, if you make a change to the top nav, the site nav, and you go to a page that you had changed, that you haven't changed since the site nav, sometimes you see the old site nav. So I think they're caching at the page level more now than they used to. So the fact that you're doing a refresh and it's sort of straightening itself out means that the refresh is actually asking for the full page, as opposed to switching from one page to another. Like if you're clicking a link in the nav, I'm not sure that there's a good answer for that other than clearing your cache. But that, that's on an individual browser.
Yeah, I mean, it happens like every time you go back and forth. So
yeah, but every time or after it's so you've changed one page and you've changed the other page, you go over here, when you refresh it, is it okay then from that point forward?
That's a good point. I haven't tested it. I'll have to look at that. I don't believe so. I think it is every time you switch back and forth. But yeah, that's a good point.
And that's probably gonna vary by user if it's caching like I think it is. I know I've seen some funky stuff like that lately, and it's been a little annoying for me too.
It's frustrating. This is actually like blocking our intranet from going live, and I'm like under serious pressure to figure something out.
Well,
they won't compromise on the column thing on all pages.
Well, if the intranet hasn't launched yet, what I'd suggest you do is go to somebody's machine who has not been looking at the intranet yet and see what it looks like there. If it's caching and you're looking at on your machine, you may be seeing a problem that nobody else is going to see. And again, only if it's caching. I'm not exactly sure I've got this right.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I think it is happening like every time you switch between them. So even if you, well.
But is that just on your machine?
Another way you could test it too is, well, closing all your browsers down or whatever, but you could try a new in private mode browser session. Do you know what I mean? And log in clean there, and then that would validate that you aren't having the caching point. I kind of agree with Mark, but if sometimes browser caches can even be funky and clearing them out can be funky. So, like people say, I did clear my cache. Well, it didn't clear.
Sort of cleared your cache.
Yeah, and it could be the browser cache, or it could be the network cache, which is the other piece of that, because you have to understand that they're going to cache at multiple different places, right? So they're going to cache the page when you download it, that's caching, but they're also going to cache some of the browser calls for certain scripts or whatever, and they may be being flaky about refreshing. So I agree with the caching, but it could be at a bunch of different levels that get more and more technical as you kind of go into them. And then there's this aspect of try an in private browser session and see if that still has the problem. And then it may be that Microsoft has some sort of problem with one of their scripts or their pages or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a CSS issue. And I've had a case open for literally over 2 months now. And it's supposedly with the product group, but just not making any progress. So, okay. But I thought maybe I could use some SharePoint framework thing to just make every page refresh until they fix this. And I know that seems a little drastic, but.
Can you shoot us the ticket number and we can
sure.
rattle a cage?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, I will do that.
I know we're a little over. We started a couple minutes late, so we're just past the top of the hour. Did want to talk about next or in 2 weeks' time, if there's nothing else, and we can keep the chat going, of course, the way we have historically in the IM. But 2 weeks from now, we're talking. This is an open-ended one that we've got a fair amount of. I think we've got some ammo on, and we think you have a lot of questions and best practices. Sorry, it's not that one. That one's 4 weeks out. This one's the migration scenarios for M&A. Todd, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I think we talked about that on Monday in light of.
Yeah. So we have a list where people submit topics and things like that, and one of them had to do with syncing tenants and stuff like that. And there's not a great option for that, but it got us thinking about what scenarios people would want to do that. And one of them was an M&A thing. And then that kind of spiraled off to us talking about all these different troubles that we've had with customers over the last few years when we've been, not trouble with customers, but trouble helping customers with M&A activities. We never have trouble with customers. They all love us dearly, each and every one of them. And so it's just a lot of fiddly bits and lessons that we've learned as we've tried to split tenants up, like a divestiture of a business unit, or bring somebody in. And part of what grabbed it for me was somebody who's been upgrading SharePoint now for 20 years. You definitely see waves of SharePoint. There was waves of people adopting SharePoint, migrating from file servers to SharePoint on-prem, all that kind of stuff. And now the wave that we're seeing a lot is this wave of migrations from one SharePoint tenant to another SharePoint tenant. And we're seeing a bunch of those. So that's what our next one's going to be about. It's just all the little fiddly bits that have tripped us up as we've tried to do that.
So 2 weeks out, fiddly bits.
Fiddly bits.
Very good. That's fun to say. Thanks everybody for joining, for taking some time with us today. Thank you especially for the questions. Always helps to have a lot of flow in the questions. Does anyone from Sympraxis have anything else before we close?
Nope, I think we're good. Thanks everybody.
Thank you everybody.
See you in 2
Appreciate you
weeks.
joining us. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.